Good morning, everyone. My name is Jack McDougall, and I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Washington Board of Trade. Welcome to our Regional Policy Leadership Series, presented this week by Comcast. The series is also supported by GS Proctor & Associates, Holland & Knight, MGM National Harbor, McGuire Woods Consulting, and McGuire Woods. We're especially pleased to be joined today by Maryland Governor Wes Moore. Governor Moore will discuss his first few weeks in office. I'm sure he's totally settled in at this point, and also share with us some of his priorities on a variety of topics, including transportation, broadband, talent, the business environment, and so much more. We're also really pleased that Misty Allen, Comcast Region Vice President, Government and Regulatory Affairs and Community Impact, will be moderating our discussion today. Governor Moore, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with our members. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you. We have a few challenges out there that we have to work through. And Misty, thank you for facilitating. And now I will turn it over to you. Thank you both.
I think might still be on mute, Misty.
Misty, you're muted.
Digital skills. We're going to talk about this. Oh, good morning. Good morning. But off to a good start here today. Well, thank you, Governor, for joining us and giving us in the Board of Trade your time today.
It is absolutely my joy. It is great to see you. It is great to be with you, and just incredibly thankful for this partnership and for this moment for all Marylanders. This is great.
Great. Well, we'll dive right in. So we'll start with your election, a monumental moment for the state of Maryland, in watching you, your family, your supporters. You couldn't just help feel that it was a little bit more than just winning the state house. So can you share with us what it meant to you to win and become the governor of Maryland?
You know, it was spectacular, Misty, and I think it was also because it was watching all of Maryland unite around a common idea that it's time for our state to move faster, that it's time for our state to be bolder, but it's also time for our state to actually move together. And I think it really does in many ways epitomize this kind of even this conversation here. I think about the work that you all have been doing for now over 130 years. The understanding that the only way for us to build, it's going to be together and making sure that all sectors are actually part of that of that growth. And it was just very humbling because I know when I started off this journey, I wasn't the one that people were watching, right? I mean, when I first started off this race, we were polling at 1%. We were running against people who were statewide elected officials, people who were cabinet secretaries, a former head of the DNC. And here I was, right, the son of an immigrant single mother, who someone who joined the Army when I was 17 years old, a combat veteran and a graduate of a 2-year college, and by the largest margin, by the most vote total in the history of the state of Maryland, was sworn in that day as the 63rd governor. But I think that the thing that really was powerful about that day was the fact that there was not I didn't come from a political background. I come from a business background. I come from a military background. I ran one of the largest poverty fighting organizations in this country. And it was really approaching this work with an understanding that we can do so much and Maryland can lead and Maryland can win, but it's not going to be by telling our neighbors that we don't need them or thinking that we can somehow be divided. Where if we stand divided, we can't win, but if we stand united, we can't lose. And that was I think what was so powerful about that day and has been so powerful about the administration so far.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I know all of us on this call today wish you and your family the greatest success in office. So quite the journey ahead of you for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about, moving forward and bringing all people, no person left behind. I know, that's a thread that you make sure comes across in all of your initiatives. Yeah. And because I am from Comcast and I am in the moderator chair today, I'm going to start with the topic of technology. Yeah. And we know that, for some rural parts of the state, access to connectivity is still a challenge. and a priority for your administration. But we also know that just getting access to the infrastructure isn't enough.
That's
We
right.
have to address the digital inequities that our society is challenged with today. So please share with us some of your goals or initiatives that you hope to achieve over the next 4 years. And how can we, as the business community, help you?
Yes, I tell you, there are many things that I'm excited about that I know we can actually get done and accomplish over the next 4 years and hopefully the next 8. I know that I've got because I keep a clock on the wall. I've got 1,406 days left in our first term, and then I plan on and I'll be asking the people of the state for a second one after that. But the thing that I know is that by the end of 1,406 days, there are certain things that we can get done. And that includes making sure that we have reliable, affordable, and accessible broadband access throughout the entire state of Maryland, full stop. I know we can do this. Going from Western Maryland to the Eastern Shore, from Oakland to Ocean City, that there should never be a part of our community or of the state of Maryland where that is a concern for people, because it is truly becoming one of the core utilities that we have, right? This is as fluid as water. This is how people are educated. This is how people are getting credentials. This is how people are applying for jobs. This is how people are applying for benefits. This is how people are getting medical care and healthcare. So we have to make sure that we have this available, affordable, accessible, and available for everybody within the state of Maryland. But the thing that I know is that the only way we can do that is if we do it in partnership. There's no single sector that's going to be exclusively responsible for this, not one. And when we know that we have the benefit of the fact that Congress has provided the states with a truly once in a generation opportunity, right, to build broadband network infrastructure, making sure that unconnected communities across Maryland, both urban and rural, are being seen and touched and impacted by this. We know we have a unique opportunity to work with the private sector, where we can both provide incentives and also we can provide leverage for the private sector to be involved. And so if we can do that, if we can truly ensure that we are not missing this opportunity, that we're deploying federal funds in the most effective and equitable way possible, that we can leverage private dollars and private investments and private expertise in the most effective way possible, and we are ensuring that state resources are being targeted, then we can actually win on these things. And so that's why I'm working to expand subscription rates to the federal affordability connectivity program, so that employees and students and others can actually have internet free of charge. It's why we have proposed the Broadband Expansion Act of 2023, where one of the 10 initiatives that I personally introduced, which by the way this represents the first time in 8 years that a governor has actually introduced a legislative package. And one of the bills in that legislative package actually focuses on making sure that we can have increased enhancements of broadband accessibility and utilizing all the levers of government to be able to help us get there. And so I know that the thing that I need is engagement. And so when you ask what can we do, I want to make sure that people understand that we are going to move in partnership with the private sector, that I believe in public-private partnerships, that I will support public-private partnerships, that I will incentivize public-private partnerships. And the reason is because that's how we're actually going to get this work done. And that's how we're going to do a better job of supporting the people of this state.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I know that Comcast is completely committed to partnering with you, and I'm sure every person on this call today looks forward to working with you on that. As you talk about technology and the pace of technological advancement, I know at times it makes me feel old trying to keep up with all that stuff. How is the state investing in itself and its own technology to improve the lives of Marylanders?
And you're so right, because the thing that we're realizing is, especially when it comes to technology, the pace of change is so quickly. So it just means that we've got to consistently be one step ahead, right? We've got to make sure we're investing one step ahead. And part of the way we're going to do that is we've got to find ways of actually modernizing state government. And that's why you're seeing it such a critical part for our administration. When we came on board, we realized just a massive level of vacancies that we're seeing within state government. So for example, in state government, there's about 10,000 vacancies in the executive branch alone. It's about 6,100 vacancies. And the reason why that matters is it means there are basic functions that are not being performed, basic incentives where people are choosing not to serve within state government. And we've already started to bend that curve and reverse that trend that we've been seeing for years. But we know that we still have a lot of work to do. It's like, how do we come up with a better way of right-sizing government, right-sizing state government so that we can be innovative, that we can be nimble, but we can be responsive. And we saw the consequences of our lack of technological and cybersecurity infrastructure a couple of years ago. When the Department of Health became a victim of a cybersecurity incident. We see aging technology hamper vital government operations, including just last week, right? When the Comptroller's office, tax mainframe went offline due to issues unique to their 30-plus-year-old system, where people were not able to access, basic returns. These are the type of investments that are critical. They're not the most glamorous. They're not the headline grabbing. When people talk about the functioning and the blocking and tackling of government, this is what we're talking about. Because when these systems fail, when we're not investing in these systems, they disrupt the ability of government to efficiently deliver services and programs, and particularly what that's going to look like to many of our most vulnerable communities. And so that's the thing you're going to keep on seeing within the state government. It's not the sexy stuff, right? But it's making sure we have proper infrastructure in place to be able to advance the will of state government, to make sure that we're making bold proclamations, that we actually have the infrastructure to be able to maintain that and sustain it. And those are just some of the things we will just continue to invest in to make sure that our state can move ahead.
Yeah, no, that's important. And it's important to, keeping all of the technology companies and the agencies that are in Maryland, you're home to NSA, Lockheed Martin, NIH, you have all of these technological firms. You have some of the best universities in the country with University of Maryland System, Morgan State, Coppin State, Bowie State. We've got 16 amazing community colleges that I know you hold dear to your history and your path and journey. So as a business community, one of the things that we're facing is really keeping the highly educated, our talented folks here in the region. And as you talk about making sure that Maryland is modern and we're investing in the right infrastructure to do that, how do you look or feel that the state can incentivize more young people and the talent to stay here and contribute to our economic and our cultural success as well?
I love this question. And I love it because you've literally just listed out why Maryland is so uniquely prepared to move fast and move forward, right? I always say as a state, one of the biggest frustrations I have is as a state, we have this tendency to be asset rich and strategy poor, right? When we think about the assets of the state of Maryland, and you mentioned a lot of them, NSA and Lockheed and NASA and NIH and the institutions of higher education we have here. I don't know a single state that would not trade assets with the state of Maryland. But why is it then that the state of Maryland over the past 8 years, we have seen national GDP rising of 23% and Maryland's has risen at 11, right? We're falling behind. Why is it that we're watching that Maryland, is still, ranked 35th in the country in unemployment? That Maryland right now is ranked 47th in the most difficult state to be able to start a business. That we have more available jobs than we do people filing for unemployment because we have a skill set deficit and a disconnect. We are asset rich and we are strategy poor. And so this is why the focus for our administration is going to be, how do we find better ways of getting rid of these false choices about saying, well, are we going to be a state that's good for workers or good for business? We're going to be good for both. And it's possible to do, as long as we can get away and break away from some of these false choices. And that does mean we are going to have to incentivize our businesses to be able to grow and stay here. It means we want this to be a place where innovation lives and where entrepreneurs come to. It means we want this to be a place where we have to come up with a better way of thinking about our tax platform within the state. This factored in my reasoning for why we proposed the Keep Our Heroes Home Act, which expands the military pension tax exemption for veterans who have recently retired and are looking to start second careers as civilians. And right now, we are a state that is driving that talent away to other states. I want that talent here. These are people who are trained. And in Maryland, I refuse to have Maryland be a farm team for any other state. That when we think about what it means to actually get rid of a regulatory red tape that so many of our innovators and our businesses continue to see, and that incentivizes them to go to other places. That in our budget, in our administration, we offer both a student loan tax credit to help young professionals pay down their debt, and also a smart buy program to help turn debt into wealth by paying off student loans when a person purchases their first home. This is innovative stuff. And it's all things that we have to be able to leverage if we're going to keep our economic engine going and have Maryland be able to compete. And I'll say one more thing about this. The reason that I am pushing so hard on this FBI bill, and you all might have seen and heard that there is that I am not letting this go. I am very competitive. And when you think about that FBI building, the fact that the FBI is looking to relocate because the current FBI building is decrepit, and there's now been announcements that they are going to move it. It is now between two different jurisdictions, Prince George's County, Maryland, and Fairfax County, Virginia. And when you look at all the criteria that the GSA and the FBI have laid out as to where they're going to put that new building, which, by the way, that new building will generate directly over 7,000 jobs, billions of dollars of economic activity. This is the largest GSA project that GSA has ever been responsible for. It's the largest federal infrastructure project that we have seen since the Pentagon and the CIA. Right? And when you think about all the criteria that has been laid out, it will cost the American taxpayer about $1 billion more to put this building in Virginia. So there's no reason. On cost, we beat Virginia hands down. On transportation assets, we actually are the only site that's actually build ready right now with transportation assets in Metro that can be leveraged for this project. For equity, we're talking about in terms of economic competitiveness. Fairfax County, Virginia, in economic competitiveness is ranked number 2 in the country, and that's because so many federal assets have already been put there. Prince George's County, Maryland, ranks at 107 because despite the fact of being a majority African-American county, there's been a historic neglect when it comes to federal projects and federal assets. But importantly, and this goes back to your question, the other reason why this building should go in the state of Maryland is because if Director Wray, the director of the FBI, says a large part of the future mission of the FBI is going to be on cyber terrorism and cyber threats. Well, we're the home of Fort Meade. We're the home of U.S. Cyber Command. We're the home of Bowie State, Johns Hopkins, the University of Maryland. We are the home of some of the largest and most important cyber assets in this country, the NSA. There is no better place and there's no better pipeline for talent that the FBI is going to need than the state of Maryland. And so when I say asset rich and strategy poor, we've got to make sure that we're leveraging the assets that we already have, be very targeted, very direct, and very intentional about the things that we are going to be able to support private sector partners like Lockheed, but also governmental entities, higher education entities, to show that Maryland can lead and Maryland can win. But it means we've got to be more intentional about the way we're moving forward.
No, thank you. That's good luck, and I love the competitive spirit. That's how we all move forward. So good luck to that. And as you talked about the FBI, you did talk about, in addition to equity and the economic development impact that it will have, not only to Prince George's County, but the state. But you talked about the other critical criteria, and one that anybody who lives and works and travels in this area, transportation, the big T. That's something for us, you've inherited the Purple Line connecting Montgomery County and Prince George's County. When do you foresee that project being completed? And, in addition to helping with the FBI relocation, what benefits do you see that really bringing to the state?
Yeah, I mean, the Purple Line is a critical investment in our transportation system. It's going to provide reliable east-west travel in Montgomery and Prince George's County. It's going to help reduce congestion. It's going to help improve our environment. It's going to increase transit connectivity, create jobs, drive economic growth. I mean, there's a beauty of the mosaic of benefits that we're going to see from the Purple Line. We're also talking about a project that has had massive cost overruns and has watched deadlines continue to slip right because there just has not been a level of effective coordination and oversight. You know, one of the things that I was most excited about in bringing on this world-class team that we have brought on, having a transportation secretary like Paul Wiedefield. Paul Wiedefield is a pro. You know, he's someone who understands transportation assets, not just throughout the state of Maryland, but around the country. Having a lieutenant governor like Aruna Miller, who, in addition to being a brilliant and deeply respected legislator out of Montgomery County, is also a civil and a transportation engineer by training. So being able to put the focus on things like mass transit and the Purple Line is going to be incredibly important for this administration because it really does create several multimodal connections across the region and linking up five metro lines, 3 MARC commuter rail lines, Amtrak, host of bus services, supporting 6,000 jobs. And with the design services that's going to be supporting, small and minority-owned businesses, 22% of all construction going to small and minority-owned businesses. And so you're going to see how, even if you look at the proposed budget that we've laid out, where we have earmarked for our proposed budget $500 million that's going to be exclusively focused on transportation. Being able to leverage the federal dollars. We're talking billions of dollars of federal dollars that are already, and we're already in coordination with the Department of Transportation and the White House to be able to ensure that a significant portion of that is going to Maryland to be able to do things like developing the Purple Line, alignment between Prince George's and Montgomery County. And so you will see that not only is this a priority for us, but that we already are devoting resources to ensure that we are going to have on time and on budget delivery for what that is. And unlike the slipping left that we continue to push back. So, it's scheduled for completion in late 26. And we know that when we think about what it means to have those kind of partnerships that are going to be necessary, that we know it's a complex project being constructed in a very dense and urban environment, but also making sure that we have to maintain pedestrian and vehicular access to it. That being able to get this done during our time is going to be of the highest priorities that we have for the administration.
Yeah, it definitely sounds transformative. And, related to that, you talked about, the once in a lifetime opportunity coming from all the federal stimulus investment coming. We, all heard about Transurban, the P3 infrastructure partner that has decided not to continue with the traffic relief plan for the new American Legion Bridge. And the managed lanes for 495 and I-270. As the Board of Trade, we look at issues regionally, and we consider that a big component of our integrated regional system. Kind of where do you go next, and kind of what's the plan, revised plan look like on the heel of this news?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I know this isn't a new problem. It was one of the things that I heard often on the campaign trail about people were saying this measure of inability to be able to address this congestion that we continue to sit down there, and the congestion it's brutal, and it's not just economically harmful. It's psychologically harmful. It's environmentally harmful. We just have not been able to close this. And again, I don't just put this on my predecessor. Frankly, it's predecessors, because this thing has been going on for decades, this issue of it. I just know that we are not going to pass off this problem to my successor. That in this time, we are going to address this issue of the congestion. In this decade, we are going to address the American Legion Bridge. And that being able to have a smart processes and P3 processes in order to make that happen is going to be crucial. That we're leveraging the federal assets that are on board. That is going to be crucial. replacing the American Legion Bridge, along with providing both highway transit improvements in the corridor, is going to, has got to be a part of that target goal and North Star that we have during our 8 years in here. And so although the P3 partner, chose to terminate the agreement, and that's despite having an extension that my predecessor offered to them, and still was not, did not, provide the plan that they indicated that the extension would give them time to be able to do. We know that we are committed to advancing the work in a way that minimizes any potential delays, that the federal record of decision remains in place, and that is critical in being able to move forward both on time, in a timely manner, but also making sure that we can do it on budget. That we will work with all of our partners, to include the local stakeholders, to include our neighbors to the south, to have a suggestion, to have a solution for congestion in the Washington suburbs along portions of 495 and 270, and making sure that we have a project that can be resilient. And so, the private investment that can come from P3s is a valuable tool. And something where, I would say that, I'm not against P3s at all. We just need to make sure that we have the public interest with those P3s that are also being served, that the investment required to develop this project is significant, but also we also have to remember that the benefits that we will receive from getting this project done are going to be significant too. So this time to be able to have a public-private partnership, this time to be able to leverage the federal infrastructure bill, which provides historic levels of funding and transportation that we need to maximize, are going to be important. And we also believe deeply that in this time, in this moment, we've got the right team. We've got the right secretary. We've got the right administration. We've got the right focus to be able to get this issue done and to get it done on time and on budget.
Yeah, no, that's great. I hear a nice emphasis in the partnership part of the P3 strategy. So
That's right.
yeah, no, that's great. We'll keep on a little bit on infrastructure investments and just kind of the overall state of the economy. If you look at the macro world, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's news, about bank closures and that, so it just contributes. But last week, the Board of Revenue Estimates released an updated forecast for the state of Maryland, and I think they were projecting a general fund reduction of about $480 million. How is this impacting your vision? There's a lot on the table that has to get done, that we need to get done. So how are you kind of addressing that and thinking through that budget reduction?
It's I feel like we get consistent reminders that we live in a world of uncertainty, right? Where whether it's hearing that within 48 hours, a bank as large and as important as SVB is now preparing to liquidate because there's been a run on the bank, or whether it's understanding that as you indicated, where we see how the BRE released their updated forecast and showing the general fund reduction of close to $500 million. The thing that I think that we know, and again, my background is I come from the business world, and the thing that we always are doing, and we always did, is how do you prepare for the unpredictable, right? How do you prepare for the things that could come? And when you look at this administration and you look at our proposed budget, we were prepared for the possibility. And so while this news is not ideal, it isn't unexpected. And it's not something that we haven't prepared for. And if you look at our proposed budget, we were very clear that we can be bold and we can be ambitious without being reckless. That we can say, yes, we can actually create a service year option, and we can make historic investments in public education and historic investments in our HBCUs, and at the same time, still keep 10% in the rainy day fund. Mm-hmm. That we can say, yes, we are going to make sure we're investing in public safety and providing $122 million to local law enforcement, to include $17.5 million to Baltimore City alone. And at the same time, our proposed budget calls for hundreds of millions of dollars in tax cuts. And so our administration has built a team with the discipline that it takes to follow the facts, the skill that it takes to adjust when new facts arise and when they show themselves. And so for Secretary Grady, for Treasurer Davis, for Comptroller Learman, we know how to move with speed, with strategy, and with focus to make sure that we're protecting the interest of our state and also ensure that we're on firm financial footing as we're continuing to roll out our agenda. That this work has been helped by the fact that Maryland retains a AAA bond rating by all of the major bond rating agencies. That's something that's important. It's something that I plan on passing off to my successor in 8 years. And I know that that's something that's going to be crucial to the state. And that achievement does speak to Maryland's sound fiscal policies that will help keep interest rates low, which is going to save Marylanders and taxpayers millions of dollars. And we're committed to maintaining that high standard that we have going forward. That's why we continue to look at how we can lead on making sure that we have smart allocations for our budget, understanding these new constraints. And so before any additional changes to the budget, the revenue revision brings $820 million in projected fiscal year 24 general fund balance into our proposed budget, down to 342, just below the legislators spending affordability committee's recommendation. And so we're making sure that we're moving fast. We're making sure that we're being bold. We're making sure that we're being ambitious. But we're also working very closely with all of our partners, and to include the private sector, to be able to ensure that we are going to be selective, disciplined, and intentional with how we're making our investment decisions.
That's great. Yeah, definitely throughout this conversation, it's smart investment, driving those efficiencies through the technology and through the investment in our infrastructure to squeeze out those economic values and economies there. Let's go a little bit deeper on the talent and investing on the preparedness for the workforce. I think we have some legislative items, the bill on Service Corps. How can we continue to do public investment in the skills training for the workforce tomorrow? And then I will promise I will stop asking questions and allow the board members to ask after that one. So let's hear how your administration will support building our workforce for tomorrow so we can all be successful.
Yes, and I think part of what we have to do is actually listen to the workforce, right? And listen to the employers and listen to the business. It goes back to what I was saying before about the fact that we have 2 available jobs for every single person filing for unemployment. And people say, well, how does that make sense? It makes sense because there is a disconnect between what we're teaching and what skills people are looking for when they're employing. And so it does mean we have to create better partnerships between the private sector and our employers and our K-12 education system and our community college system. It means it shows why in our budget we invest in things like P-Tech platforms and being able to, and which are essentially platforms where we have the private sector that are working with community colleges and our K-12 education system, helping with curriculum. So for students, when they're finishing, they're not just finishing with a high school degree, they're finishing with a high school degree, an associate's degree, and a job offer because they have been trained on the skills that we're going to need. It means reducing this, while I'm proud of the fact that Maryland has some of the best 4-year institutions in this country that we are investing in. We also need to eliminate this myth that every single one of our students must attend one in order to be economically successful. It's not true. It's not the path for every student. It was not my path, right? I started off at a 2-year college, and that was okay. And so it means how can we strip out this idea that everyone must head on to a 4-year school in order to be able to participate in Maryland's 21st century economy, reducing these arbitrary limitations of skill set credentialing, so we can get more people involved inside the workforce. And yes, I'm proud of the fact that on day 1, I signed an executive order creating a Department of Service and Civic Innovation, and where we are going to look at and identify best practices that are taking place when it comes to job preparation, skill set development, life skills for all our people, all the service entities, and have a centralized hub. Because one thing I am not okay with is when I ask one question, I need to talk to 7 people to get an answer, right? There needs to be an idea where who is accountable for the type of things that we want to have, which is true economic growth and pace-setting economic growth for the state of Maryland. And part of that initiative is going to include a service year option for every single high school graduate, where I want high school graduates, when they're thinking about what it is that they want to do next, the same way they say, well, I can go on to college, or I can go on to the workforce, or I can join the military. I want them now to have another vertical, which is, I want to do a year of service to the state of Maryland. And they can choose however they want to do it. It can be in the environment, it can be in education, it can be working with veterans, it can be working with animals, it can be whatever they choose. And we're going to do it for a few different reasons. One, I'm a big believer in experiential learning and giving young people a chance to be able to expose themselves to what they're interested in and then create pathways in order for them to do it. The second reason, it helps to address a college affordability crisis, where for every single person who completes that year, they will receive a $3,000 stipend that they can put towards higher education, skill set development and training, down payment support for housing or an automobile, giving them some type of platform that can then help them to achieve what it is that they want to do in life and an earned financial buffer. And the third reason, it's because service is sticky. Those who serve together generally stay together. And I want our state to get to know each other again. Because in this time of political divisiveness and vitriol, it's going to be service that will help to save us. And so we can develop the type of pipeline. We can develop the type of skill sets. We can make sure we're addressing that disconnect that continues to exist between what employers are looking for and what our school system is providing, and do it in one fell swoop of us actually putting a focus on digital literacy, life skills, experiential learning, and pathways that are going to help people in both urban, rural, and suburban environments throughout the state.
That's tremendous. And again, getting back to your statement about being strategic, you're just connecting all those threads throughout our conversation this morning. So we do have a question that has come in from the chat.
Great.
You've recently issued an executive order pertaining to the state's MBE program, the Minority Business Enterprise Program. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what do you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, what I want to accomplish is that the state actually hits its goals. I'm gonna be honest, I don't understand why people have goals that we have no intention of hitting. Then why create a goal? Right? I say, the parallel that I always use is kind of like if I tell my kids, bedtime is at 9 p.m. and then at 10:30 they're still up, and I say, well, wait a second, why are you still up? Well, I thought it was just a suggestion. No, it's not a suggestion. That's your bedtime, right? So we as a state have now had a goal of 29% participation for MBEs, right? In terms of how we're thinking about our resources, how we're thinking about our projects. We've had this as a long established, and by the way, a data-driven goal. When you look at demographics within the state, when you look at what we see as equitable participation, our ability to be able to create and address racial wealth gaps and all those other things, and also create economic growth, because we know that addressing the racial wealth gap does not just influence and impact one group. That, we've seen how for the past 2 decades, the racial wealth gap has cost this country $16 trillion in GDP. And that's not of a group. That is $16 trillion of GDP, right? So we see why it matters to do it. The challenge is the state of Maryland has come nowhere near hitting it. And in fact, in recent years, this number has actually gone down. And so what the executive order says is that for all of my departments and agencies, for every single person and every single organization whose job it is to move forward and who has this as an obligation, as a goal, we want to make sure that you are being transparent about where you are, about what the challenges have been, and what is your plan of action in order for us to hit it. That there is going to be accountability for it. That the idea and the days of just free waivers, that those days are gone. That the idea of just simply saying they can get away with, well, we made a good faith effort for participatory economics, that those days are gone. And there needs to be goals that we actually don't just have an intention, but have a roadmap of actually hitting. And so I was proud to, be able to, to work in partnership Our director and our head for the Board of Public Works, Manny Welsh, has been helping to lead the charge on these efforts. That we have to make sure that if we're going to set targets and goals as a state, that our state actually has a battle plan to be able to accomplish them. And we're not just going to put out goals and aspirations that we have no intention of being held to account in order to accomplish it. So that was the intention behind the executive order, and that is the takeaway that we plan on receiving. Where now every single one of these agencies has 60 days to turn over and to be able to provide real evidence as to what becomes a plan for their departments and agencies to be able to hit that goal that the state of Maryland has long ago established.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we know that this will drive more entrepreneurship and more small business and more innovation throughout, the ecosystem there.
That's right.
So we did have
and grow our economy, right? And grow the economy for everybody, which is what we're looking for. And again, it's helping to address the fact that over the past 8 years, we have watched our economy slow. We have watched our economy not keep pace with the rest of the country. We've got to make sure we're getting our economic engine revving again. And this is going to be one of the tools that we're going to use to be able to do that.
Great. Well, Governor, I know you have a hard stop and with your busy schedule. So we are coming up on the end of our time together today. So, we do just have one final question, and we started to touch on it a little bit at the beginning. But as the business community, how do you want us to engage with your administration and the Board of Trade? What's the best way that we can engage and support you over the next 8 years? And
there you go.
And make sure that we're helping move Maryland forward.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for that question and thank you for the offer, because I'm going to need you. We are watching a measure of interest and excitement about the state of Maryland that is very exciting. I mean, there are a lot of eyeballs on Maryland right now, and we're planning on leveraging that. Where we are, I'm being very honest, hardly a day goes by at this point when there is not a CEO of a Fortune 5 or a Fortune 1 who is calling in to the office and saying, hey, we'd like to find time to meet. How can we build in Maryland? What is it that you need? We are a competitive bunch by nature. And this needs to be Maryland's decade, where this is going to be a time when we are going to, for businesses that are growing here, I want them to stay. For businesses that are not here yet, I want them to come. This is going to be our innovation economy. This is going to be the national driver of economic growth, Maryland. And what I need is partnership. We are going to have an administration, and not just the Department of Commerce, but every aspect that is going to want to be able to work in partnership with each of you, to meet with each of you, to hear your ideas and your thoughts and your concerns and your hopes, to be able to make sure that we are working together to reduce regulatory red tape and making our state more competitive while also making it more equitable. And that's not a choice, that we can and we will do both. That we want to be able to hear from you about who are some of your peers and your colleagues that are in other states right now that you think are good targets for us to be able to engage. Because it's not just going to be, me or secretaries or other people in the administration who are going out every single day and selling this state. It's you all too. But I know that if we can do this in partnership, we're going to win. And it's going to be Maryland's time to be able to move ahead of these other states. So what we need is engagement. What we need is partnership. What we need is to make sure that when we say that our state's North Star is creating pathways for work, wages, and wealth for all Marylanders and not just some, I also know that it means we're going to have to work together in order to accomplish that. And that's what I'm genuinely most excited about. This is going to be Maryland's decade. I'm convinced of it, but only for intention.
That's great. I know for the business community, having that access and that line of communication and the star-studded administration you put together, we will certainly be there in partnership with you. So we're at time. So I'd love to give you any final remarks if you have any, or Jack, to you.
Well, the only final remarks that I have, Misty, and it's just thank you for this, and Jack also. Thank you to you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you to each and every one of you. It's a thrilling time for the state. It's a time where the state has a chance to go fast, and a chance for a time for the state to be bold, and to be able to utilize and leverage the fact that we have a generational opportunity with a federal government that has capital, that is very interested in working in partnership with the state of Maryland. That we have a unique chance to be able to leverage the entrepreneurial energy here in the state of Maryland and the unique assets that you've laid out before. And I'm thrilled to be the state's chief executive. I'm thrilled to know that we are going to be working tirelessly to make this Maryland's decade, and to know that the economic growth that Maryland is going to see, as we're going to be intentional about this, is going to be the awe of the nation. And so I can't wait to be your partner on this work. And again, just thank you for today, and thank you for all this.
Governor Moore, thank you so much. Really do appreciate you spending time with us. Time is not our friend right now. We agree with that. And so we look forward to working with you to move quickly and take advantage of every day that we have. We do have a lot of assets. We have a lot of challenges. And I do think if we align more effectively, we can address those. And so we really look forward to working with you on that, as well as the team that you've put together. And so thank you for being with us today. And we look forward to having this conversation on an ongoing basis. And Misty, great job. Thank you for facilitating the discussion today. Very much appreciated. We got into some good topics. Again, just want to thank our sponsors: Comcast, GS Proctor and Associates, Holland and Knight, MGM National Harbor, McGuire Woods Consulting, and McGuire Woods. We have other series coming up. We'll be featuring the Maryland and Virginia State Senate presidents coming up, regional police chiefs, the regional attorney generals, and so many more. So continue to stay with us for those important conversations. And again, thank you, Governor, for joining us. And thank you, everybody else, for listening in as well. And all the best and have a great day.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.